And we are
Oh.
live on the Jeff Meacham Network. Our buddy from the NWA himself had a little bit of a hiccup there on the I'm actually having pickups right now, believe it or not. I can't hear you for whatever reason. I don't know why.
What? That's
Not
ridiculous.
not you, so just let me see if I can figure out why.
Nonsensical.
All right, so that disconnected. That's what I wanted to do.
Why is StreamYard giving me such a problem today?
There it is. There we go.
Okay. Hey everybody.
So, Joe,
how's it going?
Doing great, Joe. It's good to see you finally here on the show. We've been trying to get this going for feels like more than a month, but it's only been a little bit. Just the NWA for me has never been more awesome to watch every Tuesday, and on the pay-per-views have just been extraordinary. So I wanted to get somebody who is there on the regular, is there every week and seeing things unfold. And you and I go back to the days of you doing play-by-play out here for Dave Marquez, of course, and I always enjoyed your work with his promotions, NW Hollywood, Championship Wrestling Hollywood, whatever you want to call it. And I just find I've always been drawn to the play-by-play guys, the color commentary guys, and the people in that role, because they're the ones that have to tell the story and let us know exactly not only what we're seeing, but what we're supposed to be seeing as we see it. So I wanted to invite you on and have you go, as the show says, one-on-one with Jeff Meacham. So,
Jeff, I have a question for you first before we go anywhere. Are you a cat person?
I actually am allergic to cats. It's the horrible. It's the horrible thing of my life. I have a major, I'm in a rash, damn near hospital situation if I go around them. So,
well, you can enjoy them through the stream here. Say hi, Teddy.
Hello there.
All right, she just kept. Yeah. If you see the tripods moving because she likes to rub against it.
I have my camera kind of just doing its thing right now too. It's funny. We're having Sarah Priebus, who is a social media, one of our favorite people in the world, social media influencer. She actually had the cat weaving throughout the whole interview, so no worries, not at all. And that's in December. We're doing that one.
Expect more cameos.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the cameos you don't have to pay $100 for, which are even better.
Yeah, right.
Those are always the good ones. So like I said, I've been following your work, working for Marquez and of course the NWA now with William Patrick Corgan in charge. But where exactly did your story begin? I know you're a newsman out in Texas. Is that where it is Texas where you started overall, or?
No.
Okay.
I'm originally from Los Angeles.
Attaboy, there you go.
Yeah, born and raised there. And my journalism career and my wrestling career started almost simultaneously. Ted, give it a rest. I know it's your tripod. I know you like the tripod. Trying to talk to the people. Trying to talk to Jeff.
Trying to get it done. That's right.
Yeah. So I was going to Jeff is a person in the SoCal area. You probably know California State University in Northridge quite well. Go Matadors.
Very well. Almost went there on a teacher credential before I realized I wasn't going to be a teacher. I was going to do this instead. So there you go.
Well, it's a great school for anybody who's looking for a place to go, and a great journalism program. So I was there for that. And at the same time, Jeff, as you know, and as probably a lot of your viewers know, a man whose real name is Brandon Taylor, but he's wrestled under many other names, including the Hobo, and now Robert Baines. We're best friends.
Brandon. What a saint of a person.
Oh yeah, we're best friends. I was the best man in his wedding, and
his wife's
we were high school friends. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. He's actually up in Europe. He's on the West Coast right now with New Japan because he's in their office putting things together over there. I think in Riverside.
Not a bad gig.
Not bad at all. He loves it. He loves working with New Japan. I don't blame him. It's a great company.
Yes.
But anyways, he found an ad in the newspaper, and that shows the age that we really have, right? In the actual physical paper newspaper ad.
Yes, we're all in our mid-over 30s. We know what a newspaper is. Yes, quite so.
Yeah. And it was a 2-for-1 discount for a wrestling school. And he was like, "You want to go?" And I was like, "Sure." And it was on Van Nuys, in Van Nuys, like
there you go. In the valley, brother.
In the valley, almost close to like Panorama City area.
Yes.
And it was called the Pit, and it was a place that was Ryan Katz was a trainer there. Dan Magnus was a trainer there.
There you go.
And people may know him as Ricardo Rodriguez. Jesus Rodriguez was a trainer there, who now lives in San Antonio, same town as me. which is cool.
Chewy's kind of been all over the world. He started out here locally, here in Newhall. Actually, it was one of his big things. I'm like 10 minutes away from my house, and yeah, he's kind of been all over the world. Last time I saw him, talked to him, he was in Egypt still, so he's kind of bounced around. So
he just came back from Egypt not too long ago, probably just a few days ago. He's got a whole bunch of dates in the Texas area. So I'll probably cross paths with him at least.
So
but now I train. Now I train at the Dog Pound Dojo here in San Antonio, Texas. It's the premier place to learn to be a professional wrestler. And he'll come by and do seminars and stuff too, which is fantastic because he's probably the best trainer that might be walking the earth right now. But anyways,
back to exaggeration, honestly, yeah, he's great.
No, he's fantastic. And so we went there, and I was always a fan of pro wrestling. We'd order the pay-per-views at Brandon's house. His mother, Megan, would cook the whole spread. Fantastic, great times. I was there with him and our other good friend, Mark Donica. We all went to the same high school, and he was working with WWE for a long time. And now he's freelancing up in Austin. His life's great. And I tell you, like, it just kind of got me. And so then I started to work. And I wrestled for a little while, terribly. As my former broadcast partner Jim Cornette would say, outlaw mud show wrestler.
That sounds like something Corny would say. Yes.
Yeah. So like that's what I did, and
tremendous.
Yeah, and then I moved to Toledo, Ohio. I got my first journalism gig there. I got lucky, and I got a gig there for WNWO, which is great call letters for a wrestling fan.
Hell yes.
Yeah. So I moved to Ohio. I wrestled a little bit there and a little bit in Pennsylvania when I moved there. And then eventually wrestling took a backseat, at least me being in the business took a backseat. And then I moved to Palm Springs. I got a great job there for KESQ, the Desert's news leader.
Oh my goodness. God, that's okay. Right on.
I tell you, I love working there. And honestly, if the money was a little better, I probably would have never left. Palm Springs is fantastic. Great town to live in. Little pricey, but a lot cheaper than LA. And summers are hot, but
people think the cost of living here is bad, and Lord knows it is here in LA. And I'm in like the farthest you can go in LA County before you actually hit Kern County, which is I'm on my way to hell at the 14 here. But
Palm down for life.
Yeah, seriously. When we had that break between the 805 and 61, it's like, we're not 805, we're not Bakersfield, and then they still made Bakersfield 61. It's like, what was the point?
Yeah.
Why would the break if it didn't happen? But the cost of living here is atrocious. But you get out toward Palm Springs, it's not as expensive, which surprised me because Palm Springs is beautiful. But
honestly, it depends where you look too. I mean, if you want to be in Palm Springs proper and live, in the same neighborhood as Bob Hope's mansion that you see on the hill, that's your neighbors are going to be Barack Obama and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be gajillionaire kind of money. And the PGA West is out there, so it's a lot of big money. But there are a lot of affordable places that you could live in other neighborhoods. Oh, there's Teddy. Anyways.
Much more options in the area as opposed to here, which is, if you go 10 minutes east, you're paying the same as you're going 10 minutes west. Santa Clarita has gotten very affluent as far as the pricing. It's kind of crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. So when I got there, it was at the same time that Todd Kennelly was going to Impact to do their thing.
Right.
And so it just happened to be really good timing. And Brandon, being the hobo and their heritage champion at the time,
yes.
He just suggested to me, why don't you just come on down? And so I made the 3.5-hour drive from Palm Springs to Port Hueneme, beautiful ocean view pavilion.
Yes.
I'm surprised it hasn't fallen into the ocean already.
Right. It's on the water, man. You go fight you at the door. You're in the damn sand. It's crazy.
And it's falling apart.
God bless it. You know what? I always wondered why they ended up there and how long it took him to get to Commerce. It's like, man, you know what? Yeah, the building is what it is, but when it's all dressed up pretty, it looks wonderful.
It looks good. It looks fine for television. That was the other thing too. Is it looked fine for television and had everything we need, and that's why we were there. I like the excuse of just being able to see the ocean.
Right.
So I drove out there and I did some interviews, and the first show I was there was for the Red Carpet Rumble, which is
there you go.
Exactly as you know, and I'm sure a lot of viewers know, that's basically Dave Marquez's Royal Rumble / WrestleMania. It's the big show. And that was his kind of go home before he went to go to TNA, I guess it was at the time.
Right.
And then the next taping, I was just, all right, Dave just slid me right in, and I sat next to Johnny LaQuasto, and we called the action, and Dave taught me a lot, and he gave me, there's a commentary rule book that comes from WWE that I'm sure exists online somewhere.
Yes.
That Vince McMahon typed out probably decades ago.
Yes.
And so he gave me that, and it had all the good pointers in there and all the things you want to do. And it's still kind of the Bible. When you're a journalist, there's a AP style book, and that has how all words are supposed to be written out and what the definitions are and what they do for. And every year it gets updated, so you get to see new words that would be in there. And this is similar to that, although I don't know if it was ever really updated. I'm sure it is. If you go and work for the WWE, I'm sure they have something, an updated version of that now.
Yes.
That probably just includes stuff that, because the internet didn't exist at that point when these rules were written.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then I just started working for Dave, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
I learned a lot from Dave. I wouldn't be in the NWA if it wasn't for Dave giving me a shot. And I'm so happy that after this pandemic, seeing all these things on social media, being able to see on FITE TV, all the success because I love all of those guys all those SoCal guys that I came up with and I called those matches for, whether it's Peter Avalon, who's on AEW, or Ray Rosas and Watts and Tito, and the list goes on of all these guys that still work on that independent scene in Southern California, which is one of the most challenging independent scenes I feel to thrive on, to live in. You can survive in Texas as an indie wrestler and have that pretty much be your sole income. It does not work like that in Southern California. There's nobody that's paying enough for you to survive. But other parts of the country you can. So I have so much respect for those guys that are willing to put in all those extra sacrifices that you have to. I mean, like Dan Joseph was having a job, raising a family, had an injury. While he was injured, he was arguably the best color commentator that I've ever worked with.
He was so good in that role.
He's so funny. So funny. I love him.
Yeah, exactly.
And, of course, the time working there, and then being able to expand that and do the Championship Wrestling from Arizona shows, which I hope they come back with those too, because that's another group of guys to be able to go back to either if it's not the Nile or another venue in Phoenix or one of the surrounding areas would be fantastic. So, but that was sort of my start. And then,
I love it, man. That's great.
Yeah.
You mentioned all those names.
This is my other cat. Sorry.
Okay.
This is Ron. Full name Megatron. Oh, she's gonna smack me. She is mad. She's a wildcat.
She's like, you better put me down. I'm a Megatron.
I'm gonna put her down. Yeah, she's about to destroy this puny human.
She was not happy. So all those names. It's so funny you mentioned Peter, because for some reason I keep forgetting that Peter ended up with AEW, because I don't have a chance to watch the secondary shows that are on YouTube or whatever, so I don't get to see a whole lot of Peter, unfortunately. I get on the ship on the Jericho cruise a couple weeks ago. Oh, Peter's here. He and I, it was like we hadn't seen each other in a day, as opposed to years and years have passed. Man, he was so great on the cruise. Everybody that was there that I've worked with, through Dave Marquez, through everybody I've worked for over the years, it was so nice to see people like Peter, people like Brian Cage, people having success, getting their start, and one fast or another working for the United Wrestling Network. I mean, it was funny. Brian Cage seemed like he had a little bit of this wall up for most of the weekend. Last night we were on the water. So Sunday night going into Monday, they had their last thing at the ring on the pool deck. He and I were talking like he and I hadn't talked since he and Sean Rickard, LA Knight were Mach 1 tag team champions. So I go back. Matter of fact, the last show I had that I went to for Marquez prior to the move for Animi was Percy's Memorial Show. Yeah. So to be there for that was something really special. And
for sure.
Getting to know Percy, there are days where I conflict with Dave, there are days where I don't, but having the opportunity to meet and have my son meet and interact with Percy Pringle in the last year or two of his life was just something I will never, ever forget. I will always treasure that. And being there at the curtain right before Sean walked out, grabbed that urn and walked to the ring and cut that promo of his life about Percy, just standing there and having having that urn in my hand was just like, it shakes me now, even thinking about it. It was crazy. But people like Sean Ricker, who you see in NXT, of course, now, and Peter Avalon, who you mentioned in AEW, there's so many guys that have come through here. Like you said, it is not easy to be
look at Bryan Danielson came through there. Cesaro came through there. There's the list goes on and on of the people that were featured. And then even the prominence that the NWA has, the first matches of the Lightning One era were happening at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, where Tim Storm was still the champion as well.
I was going to say, I gave full credit to Billy and to everybody at the NWA because I had not gone to Port Hueneme. I know it's 3.5 hours for you from Palm Springs when you were out here at the time. It's only an hour and a half for me, but that's far when I got to have somebody else drive me. And can I please get a ride? Trying to hitch your ride's a pain in the ass to go anywhere out of San Diego. So, but it's like the 10 pounds of gold's back in town. I got to get out there. I got to see this. And again, Tim Storm, he's a teacher by trade. He's been a teacher forever, so he relates with everybody. The dude just gets everybody. And he was great with my son. He did a promo with me after the match with Nick. It just worked so well. And again, I thank, Marquez and Lagan and everybody that were there. It's just like, hey, we'll get you your interview. Just, you got to hang tight. You got to stay with us. By the grace of God, Sean Waltman showed up for that show. So he and I were BSing throughout the post-match because he and I have been friends for, 16 years this year. So it was nice to see Sean. It's great that people come through and don't forget that they came through there. You mentioned Danielson. You mentioned Cesaro. I saw Danielson a year and a half after he had signed with WWE. First time I'd seen him since he left PWG, which had been 2 or 3 years before that. And he talked to my son and his mom like they were old buddies because they have been old buddies. And then he actually got up from his access chair and walked to the gate right after Katz had given me a stranglehold because that's what Ryan does. And like, how come you're not in here? It's like, it's expensive. That's why. But he talked to me. Everybody that's come through here has been so great. And the promoters out here that I've worked for have been so, you mentioned Marquez having the little Bible thing, influential on how I do what I do when I interview people, when I do these podcasts, because you get a little bit from everybody. And I did have a little bit of indie exposure, like a better term, the last 2 days of XPW, which I found the part with Marquez on XPW hysterical looking back now. But just getting to work, watch that production go, like be able to be behind the curtain, watch that production get made, and seeing that was just so helpful and so beneficial to what I do now. And I am forever grateful to people like Dave Marquez and everybody that worked, that, gave me the opportunity just to sit down and watch. And I know that was good for you coming out of Ohio and then, getting the shot, like you said, with Todd. Todd is a wonderful person. He and I, when we see each other, we fall into the habit of just, like I'm doing now, just BSing for a day, it feels like hours, but we're only talking for a couple of minutes. I love everybody. It's so great.
Yeah, I'd say I do miss my LA crew, and it was fun to be able to come out and do the primetime live when those were we were still in the pandemic, but it was still nice to be able to see everybody and touch base with everybody. And it's great to be able to just, I love listening to the matches that they have now and being able to watch stuff on FITE. And I think it really complements just the whole wrestling scene out there. I think that the difficulty I have having 2 careers and coaching at the dojo, it's hard to watch everything because there's just so much out there. And so honestly, WWE was the one thing that really fell by the wayside. I can't tell you who. I know Roman Reigns is a world champion, and honestly, I can't tell you anyone else for sure. I'd be guessing. I'd be guessing that maybe the Usos are the tag champions. I really don't know.
They actually are. They actually are SmackDown Tag Champions for the moment. They actually got back together during Roman's.
That was a good guess.
During Roman's reign, over the Universal. So they're all. The Bloodline are all champions, and they're dominating SmackDown right now as they should. So that's
right. And I think Survivor Series is coming up soon
this Sunday.
And maybe I'll watch that if I have time. But I'm also. On Saturday, I'll be out at Mission Pro Wrestling. They have a show out in Conroe. From Sea to Shining Sea is what it's called. You can watch it, I believe, on Title Match.
Cool.
I did do commentary for one of their shows there, but they've cultivated a new commentary team that's all female. to complement the roster that is majority female. They have a couple of men's matches now, but they're fairly preliminary. Main events are always women. And so I'll be in the back end, I'll be aging and I'll be producing and I'll be, helping out. But it's wonderful to be a part of something like that. And, you keep making connections with great people in professional wrestling. And one of those people for me is Thunder Rosa. She's the one that got me into the dojo over here.
So great.
And then, she's fantastic. And I mean, what she's doing on AEW is total gangbusters. I don't think it's going to be long before they put the women's championship on her there. She had the NWA women's championship and, and held it in high regard and took it to a whole nother level, I believe. So it's really great. I mean, that's the really great thing about professional wrestling is you meet a lot of wonderful people, and those wonderful people become lifelong friends. It's almost like, people talk about going to college or something like that, but this is like a fraternity that goes on for your whole life. If you choose, you could always be a part of the wrestling business.
Again, you mentioned the Pit, it's, my first ever show that I went to outside of a WWE live event or a WCW house show in 1994 was XPW, my birthday, 2003. Their last two shows in LA when they were still the old XPW, the naughty XPW, was February 28th and March 1st, 2003. That was my birthday, March 1st. So I got to see them. They weren't exactly in their prime. They were on the decline. I mean, that's the way it was. But, meeting Ryan and meeting Joey Chaos and meeting all these people that to this day are still friends of mine. Like I said, I've seen Ryan a grand total of 2 times in person since he started working for WWE as a producer. We were out, he was at Access the one year in 2011. And then the only, as far as I know, NXT house show that was at Bakersfield, and Bakersfield just is what it is. But went up there, this big giant like stage thing, like ramp thing between the audience and the ring. I walk out there, Ryan sees me, waves me over. He and I are just talking for a half hour. Just he's producing an entire show, and he's just out there just BSing with me in the crowd because I was there. So you talk about the lifelong connections. Ryan is one of my favorite people I've ever met ever. He is a showman. He is an entertainer. He is a sports entertainment guy through and through. And I love him for that. He's wonderful to work with, work for.
And for your viewers who do not know, they may remember the brief time of him being an on-air talent with WWE as the Lemon, a party lemon in the big party posse. Who was that guy? Now his name escapes me. What was the
No Way Jose? No. I'm sorry.
No,
Adam Rose,
because he feuded with No Way Jose.
Adam
Rose's party posse.
The whole conga line thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, the party line. A lot of people have gone through that party line that nobody remembers. Our buddy Heather Lynn went through there a couple times.
I remember seeing that.
Of course, Braun Strowman before he became Braun Strowman was a Rosebud. So yeah, there's a lot of people who've been in that conga line, that party line.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that could go back and probably watch it on Peacock and find some very familiar faces that they probably are going to see on AEW or things like that. And that would actually be kind of fun to go back and kind of see those people. Because extra work is, I think it's really important for a lot of people to get that opportunity, to get that foot in the door. I never did it because I never thought I was good enough to do it. But, there's people that I've coached and I know out here in San Antonio that have had, opportunities, to perform at the AT&T Center and, have a squash match with Keith Lee or something like that. Casey Blackrose being one of those. He's a local kid out here. But, I've watched him progress, in his career. And he just had a barn burner of a match with Tom Latimer at RCW, which I call it. So it's really great to see, you get that experience and it just kind of elevates you just little bit by little bit. And it gives you, opportunities to have some great matches and to entertain some folks and really show people what you got.
Outside of the storyline shenanigans with you and Strictly Business, how awesome is it to see Tom Latimer get this chance? Tom Latimer is a guy, for me, who I've followed since he was in TNA Impact, whatever it was at the time, as Bram. And he just kind of it seemed like they were coasting with his story for the longest time. And now he's up there, with Albus, his friend forever. And, just nipping at the heels of Murdoch right now. And we'll definitely get Trevor momentarily. I'll definitely talk about Trevor Murdoch today. But I love what they're doing with Tom and the fact that him and Camille are this power couple and just running over everybody, along with, of course, the masterpiece, Chris Adonis. I love the main event level scene in the NWA right now. I think it's so packed with such amazing talent.
It really is. I mean, we have some incredible people that are still working with us. If I want to list them all, I'll forget one person and I'll feel guilty. But focusing on Tom, I mean, if you were to just type into a computer all the things that you would think a pro wrestler should be, the image that would print out would be Tom Latimer.
Oh God, yeah.
He's got the look. He can talk. And I think that's the other thing too, is I don't think he was really given that opportunity to show everything that he can do based on being a character. And he's a great ring tactician and he can help put things together and he's a real ring general, but I don't think he was really given that opportunity until Billy gave him that opportunity. And you see a lot of that in the NWA. Is the way that we operate, we follow this very similar mindset of what you would see at Jim Crockett Productions for Georgia Championship Wrestling, those sorts of things, even AWA. And what we try to do is find those talents that are out there that are underutilized and give them a platform for which they can be genuine in themselves. And I think that's something. No one can deny the best talent roster on earth is WWE. But the downside that they have is everything is, from what I understand, being the outside person looking in and seeing what people are saying and having conversations with people like Aaron Stevens, is it's so restricting. And they can't break through that mold. It's too difficult. But I feel like WWE handcuffs themselves and it prevents them from having stars like a CM Punk. For all intents and purposes, CM Punk could have just been another jobber in WWE. He didn't fit that mold. He wasn't all jacked up like Vince likes. But they gave him a shot, or he at least took that shot. He took liberties, or he took whatever it was, however way you want to phrase it. And now he's, the king of AEW and just bringing so many people into that fold that maybe weren't a part of AEW 3 months ago.
No.
So I think that's the great part about the National Wrestling Alliance is we really let our wrestlers be who they are and speak their truth. Because you can't give somebody a script and expect it to be as genuine as what reality is. No. And so it would be, for instance, it would be very bizarre for us to have Camille and Tom and not acknowledge the fact that they're a couple.
Yeah, that seems silly.
And other companies do that. They do that all the time because they doesn't fit in what they've already written for stories and stuff. But no, you have to live in reality on reality's terms.
Right.
And so in the world of professional wrestling, why not use that? Why not? And then when you do use it, and then people start to hear Tom talk, and, he's not just the brash guy who came in as the mercenary and became the tag champ, but like when he's kind of there and now he's in this leadership position, quote unquote, with Strictly Business, with Chris Masters, who also, he was given a lot of opportunities in WWE, but I think what they wrote for him was really based on him. Because if you look at what he has now, there's a lot of similarities with it because he really kept that character rooted into what he can be and what he can perform at in the ring. And so that's where you find success is you don't want to go against the current. Let's go with that flow and find a way to have a story that's cohesive and build good matches and have good promos. And at the end of the day, it's a business. We got to sell tickets. We got to sell tickets to Hard Times 2 coming your way at GPB Studios December 4th. You can pre-order the pay-per-view right now on FITE TV. You can order tickets for our brand new show. That's the day we're taping the day before on Friday. I'm very excited for that. It's going to open a lot of doors for a lot of wrestlers out there that really you haven't seen in the NWA, maybe you've never seen before. There's going to be a lot of new faces on there, and there's going to be a lot of new stories, and we're going to be able to play a lot more. And it'll be a different format than what you expect to see. And then we're also doing our power tapings on the 5th and the 6th. And, I'm really excited because when we go back to Georgia, when we go to the GPB studios, when we're in that NWA arena, you know, we did the one taping because of COVID. Thank you very much. When we did the one taping, set of tapings, I should say, in the middle of COVID in the smaller studio, we had a smaller audience. It was great, and we made some incredible matches and some great television. But the feel of that large room where you have the 300 plus crowd that's there, nothing's better. And you really feel that energy. And Jeff, you know it from being at the Ocean View Pavilion, because it's sort of the same setup, in that same studio setup where the crowd's all in one spot. You're on the hard cam. And that's how we're gonna keep going. And there's probably going to be some small differences. It might be a little bit of a different look because, you know, Billy Corgan's still the boss, and he's the most creative human being that maybe has ever walked since, you know, Michelangelo or something.
Right. Seriously.
He was talking to me the other day, and I was like, "How many songs do you think you've written?" He's like, "Lost count, thousands of songs that he's written." It's like I would have no idea. You know, like I would need a teleprompter to do a concert if I had all these different songs in my head. I don't know how it works. So, but what's great about that is him being that artist and having that mindset and knowing that our wrestlers are not just athletes, but they're also artists in their own right. And they're there to tell a story more than anything else. That's what we want to do, is we want to tell a story with wrestling and get people emotionally invested in things. And I saw that for sure at our last taping with our big special in Oak Grove, Kentucky at By Any Means Necessary.
Great pair of shows on Tuesdays.
It was, they were bangers. The crowd was super hot. And with what happened afterwards with Mike Knox running in, locking the cage behind him and destroying Trevor Murdoch.
Oh my God.
I think he beat the crap out of him with that chair.
He did.
But he's asserted his dominance. He's made himself very clear. And, you know, Billy Corgan's going to look at things and he sees dollar signs. And that's why he's going to be in the main event with Trevor Murdoch coming up on December 4th at Hard Times 2. And it's going to be, that match is going to be a barn burner. You've got Camille that's going to go against Melina. The dogs are already barking. The dogs are excited. They want to be in on it too. Camille's going to challenge, or Melina's going to challenge Camille for the NWA World Women's Championship. Probably the one championship she's never held in her career. She's held all the other ones.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
We've learned tonight that the End will be challenging La Rebellion for the NWA World Tag Team Championships as well. We know that Tyrus, who is going to be defending the NWA World Television Championship against Scion. And that's been a bitter feud between those. So, you know, all the championships are on the line. It's incredible stars out there. And, you know, Tyrus being the TV champion doesn't get a lot discussed about him. But on the other hand, I don't think there's a single wrestler we have. I don't think there's a single wrestler in America that gets as much exposure as Tyrus does. He takes that NWA television championship, puts it on his shoulder, and he goes on the highest rated show on the highest rated cable network, like almost every night. That championship belt is on Fox News. Like, put your political beliefs aside. Everybody has, you pick a side, I get it. But at the end of the day, we have millions and millions of people who are seeing the NWA Television Championship on Tyrus's shoulder, and he's putting it over every night. And I think that that's incredible. That's the other thing, too. I think, you know, you talk about the NWA, and I think what we've been able to be very successful with is we have tried to bring in, you know, Jeff, you love wrestling. You're going to go to wrestling shows. I'm not worried about bringing Jeff in to watch the show or to buy a ticket.
Right.
But Jeff's cousin, who may or may not be interested in wrestling, but sounds kind of cool. Let me watch one thing. Let me get digging into this. Oh, let's get into that. Let's start talking about this. We're exactly. In our audience that we get, especially our audience is, if it's not the majority, it's close to it. We have a large female audience that tunes into us. I think having Velvet Sky be there on commentary helps.
Definitely helps.
It brings in a whole different perspective with it as well. I think having a woman like Mae Valentine doing those interviews there, especially, you know, this last set of tapings we had in the Chase, she really stepped into her own.
She really did.
She took control of a lot of those interviews in ways that we've never seen before. And I think that seeing those stories and hearing those voices that you might not hear at a lot of other shows that are or from a lot of other companies that are the same size, quote unquote, as the NWA, I think it's pulling in a lot of new people. And I don't mean new people for us. I mean new people for the sport.
Yes.
These are people that don't typically watch professional wrestling, but they're becoming fans of the NWA. And if that ends up opening doors and those people decide, hey, Thunder Rosa was a champion. I want to see what she does on AEW. Or, we had Eli Drake. Oh, that guy. Oh, I know him. He's LA Knight. He's on NXT. Let me see what he's up to now. Fantastic. Right. We need to start bringing more people into this business and using that as a resource. We can't rest on our laurels that there's always going to be those wrestling fans out there that are going to go to the shows, that are going to buy the t-shirts, nice t-shirt, by the way, that are going to, buy the pins and pay for subscription fees. We got to start bringing in whole new audiences, because if you think about it, that's what wrestling did in the late 80s. Wrestling was always popular, but as soon as it became on television, it opened the door for a lot of people out there.
Definitely.
That probably wouldn't have gone to that spot show in Poughkeepsie, those were for diehard wrestling fans. But once it became national, it became televised, that's where it explodes. That's where you get your mega stars. That's where you get your Ric Flair. That's where you get your Dusty Rhodes. That's where you get all of these people, your Magnum TAs, all of those folks. So we just want to try to get a piece of that back. There's too much competition in the market now for wrestling to be the best thing, the most talked about thing ever. Right. I think that's a fool's errand. We can't get there. There's too many, there's people Twitch streaming that are getting thousands of viewers and stuff, doing video game reviews and things like that. There's just too much going on. But if we could start pulling some new people and then hold on to that core audience that knows this is the NWA, this is what it's about. Our matches have rules. Our matches make sense. Our matches have stories. Our wrestlers are impeccable athletes that can also captivate you in an emotional fashion. Then we're going to start bringing it in, and it's going to benefit the whole industry. That rising tide is going to lift all boats. And that's not to put it. I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's not to throw any shade on the people who are doing things a different way. There's plenty of people out there who are making great money doing super hardcore matches, bashing people with light bulbs, that whole thing. And that's fine. And that's going to exist in its own world. But it's really hard to get new people into that, I feel.
Agreed.
It's going to be real hard. Like I try to think of it as my girlfriend. She watches the wrestling stuff that I do because she loves me. But I don't know.
That's the same reason my son's not going to do it. Is because if I'm going to be with this guy, I probably need to watch wrestling.
Exactly. But I don't think I could sell her on GCW. It's a little too gory. She's not going to be into that. And so she's not going to be part of that. But I think but if I could get her to be a fan of the NWA, then I could get her sister to be a fan of the NWA. And then her sister's friend could be a fan of the NWA. And then you start to build that swell. And so that's what we're doing right now. And it's great to have guys like you that have all these great platforms out there, and we're having these conversations. And I feel that, I never turn down interviews for folks. I always want to talk about what we're doing. Because if it brings in one extra person, no, of course. And the other side of me doing it is, I was that struggling journalist who was at the last place station in Toledo, Ohio, who people wouldn't call back. So I know what it's like to be in those shoes and to be frustrated and trying to get access and trying to ask questions and trying to learn more to benefit yourself and to benefit us. Because at the end of the day, I'll never turn down going on interviews because I want more people to watch our product and I want people to enjoy our product. And that's the other thing I think that people really need to understand is I feel like the vast majority of Americans can watch an episode of NWA Power and really enjoy themselves. And that's the whole point, is we want to make sure that we make a show that's kind of for everybody. And I think we really hit that out of the park every time we come up on FITE TV at 6:05 on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, you got in the chat room over there. Our buddy Big Jeff says he has to catch that show. You're talking about the pay-per-view coming up in a couple weeks. You gotta get on there, man, and get on FITE TV and order that. It's gonna be Hard Times 2 is gonna be a fun show if you're a wrestling fan, or if you haven't seen this new NWA the last 4 years. I tell you, man, pay-per-views get better and better for my money. I'm perfectly willing to drop whatever Billy asked me to drop down. I'm right with it because it's such fun to watch.
There's a lot of folks out there that I know probably don't subscribe to us on a weekly basis, but they do order our pay-per-views.
Right.
Because our pay-per-views are always, I mean, and I feel like it's the same way with WWE. Like I mentioned before, I have no idea what's going on. I think they were in Saudi Arabia last or something like that. I have no idea, but I'll still watch the Survivor Series. I'll still watch WrestleMania. I'll still watch the Royal Rumble. And Money in the Bank, maybe, if I had to choose, like
or SummerSlam,
Summer. There you go, SummerSlam.
The Big Four.
SummerSlam. Yeah. SummerSlam I always like because a lot of times it was at Staples Center and I used to flyer.
Exactly.
From wrestling,
That was always good to be 45 minutes away as opposed to hours. Yeah.
Exactly. Those are fond memories of me handing flyers to people who are like, "Who the F are you?"
Yes.
Yes. So, but so the NWA is the same way. But if we can start getting people into that subscription service, and it's hard to get people to want to, pay their hard-earned money. But I will tell folks that the $5 a month that they spend on our FITE TV subscription is well worth it. I'm one of those dumb dudes that goes to Starbucks every once in a while and gets the big stupid latte. And for the cost of that latte, for 4 weeks, you'll get 4 episodes. You'll get 4 hours of some really good wrestling and some great storylines in historic venues. If you tune into this current season of NWA Power, for the first time in over 30 years, you'll see wrestling at the Chase.
Yes.
And the Chase Park Plaza Hotel was a centerpiece of wrestling in St. Louis and St. Louis television for decades, for almost eons at that point.
It feels like that, right?
The footage that we have in black and white, like Nick Bockwinkel and all these other,
so good.
All these names of back in the day, and then further on, like Ric Flair and all that. It's incredible that we were able to relive that in that same room, that very same room, where so much wrestling history. That's because that's the great thing about being in the NWA is our roots run so deep, and that's one of our biggest assets for it. And it's sometimes, and me being affiliated with some other companies that are new and they're brand new, Dog Pound Championship Wrestling. We just had our second show here in San Antonio. And it's this new thing that we're making. We don't even have champions. It's so new. Yeah. And we're gonna have a show on the Saturday of Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Which those shows actually typically do well because people need a break from their families. So it's an excuse like, I gotta go to this wrestling show. I'm leaving for a few hours.
Back in the day, you throw on a Starcade Survivor Series, you're good to go to distract you for a while. Exactly. Now it's like I had to watch football with the family. Ugh.
I got a break from you people. I got to go watch 2 guys beat the Jesus out of each other. So so it's more of a challenge, but when we have it, and I agree with Jeff, I can't get through 3 hours of Raw either, and I can't get through whatever NXT is doing right now. I've seen the highlights that they have on, and it's like maybe it's just not for me. Maybe I'm just not that audience, but I do love. That's the other thing is I love Ricker. I love Eli Drake or LA Knight, whatever he's going by.
He's with the company.
And he's there. And so whatever clips I see that they post of him, I want to see those.
Yeah. The thing is, they had him in the storyline with DiBiase, and then he lost the $1 million title after he had turned DiBiase. So he's just he's just there again, right? Yeah. And it's just like Sean is one of the most talented people you've never heard of. And I say that with all love and respect to Sean Ricker. I love that man to death.
Well, that's the thing is, Jeff, you've heard of him. Yeah, you've heard of him. A lot of independent wrestling people have heard of him. And now he's finally getting that shot to become that mainstream star. And I really think that he has that. And, if anybody can follow that sort of playbook of going into wrestling and then being a movie star, it's Sean Ricker. I mean, the guy's super dedicated. He's right there. He's got everything you want. I love Steve.
So you're a Texas guy. We were at Booker T's the podcast thing he had out here in LA after No Mercy a few years ago, benefiting the hurricane victims down there in Houston. Sean came along. He wasn't. I think he was either already on the way out of Impact or he was actually still the champion, but wasn't getting any work, which is always a good thing. But he came out there for that. He was working where they were, and I think they were still in Orlando at the time. He flew all the way out here just for Booker's event, and like I said, he is one of he's funny. He's got charisma for friggin' days. He just needs that little bit of oomph that I would have thought NXT would have given him. But again, NXT is so shuffled and muddled down now. Big G making a good point in the chat room. He'd rather watch 3 hours of NWA than Raw. That's 3 hours, almost the entire month. You're paying $5 for that a month, like you said earlier. And what I was going to point out earlier was not every show is the same format. You'll get 1 week of NWA Power, I'll call it proper, where you get you and Velvet and either Tim or Austin Idol at ringside calling the basic stuff, interviews. Then you'll get 1 week of women only. Then you'll get this Power Surge episode, and then you'll get the Go Home for the pay-per-view, and boom, off we go again for the next month. So it's just it's great. There's so much variety. Like you said, you're paying $5 a month. You're getting basically 4 hours of different variety, which I think is the greatest thing that whoever came up with that idea just bow down, because it was such a great concept.
Well, it's all Billy Corgan. Everything goes back to him. I mean, everything goes back to Billy. And he has this great vision. And, he says this a lot, and I like to drive it home every time I do interviews. People assume, for Billy, this is a tax write-off or this is a pet project because he's the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins. It absolutely isn't. I mean, he is so dedicated and he is so driven with the NWA, with this brand. Every day we're, exchanging emails with him and getting new ideas and trying to find the talent that he wants to see and the talent that he thinks is going to, put asses in seats and things like that. So it's incredible. And, the other thing that's interesting too is he brought up this great point is when we were in St. Louis, he was talking about TikTok. And he says the Smashing Pumpkins had just gotten on TikTok. And because of that, they got all of these 14-year-old girls to start listening to Smashing Pumpkins because there's nothing like that on the radio, on Spotify, unless you're looking for it. It's not there. No. And so there's you don't get any of that. And so it creates this market for it. And so I'm hoping that, us, and we're having these big pushes through social media, through our own TikTok accounts, through Thriller accounts, through FITE TV. We're starting to pull those same sort of people that are not diehard wrestling fans to become NWA fans. And it's working. It's working really well. If it wasn't working well, we wouldn't be doing it. We wouldn't be attracting major national sponsors like T-Mobile, like Anheuser-Busch, like CarShield. They're all seeing dollar signs. They're all seeing it. And so they're coming to us. We're not going to them. They're coming to us because they know what we have here. And so it's going to be great to see where it goes and see how it evolves.
I mean, having the Bush company, you lived out here. You on the 405, you can practically smell that brewery as you're going down the 405 there by Roscoe, man. It's right there. They make that stuff out here part of the time. So, but they're based in St. Louis also, and they've got a great setup there, and that's a hell of a sponsor to have for if you're in St. Louis. There's very few sponsors that you can have bigger than Bush Beer. That's the way to go out there. So.
Well, and that's the other thing is that they didn't just do St. Louis. They're our official beer sponsor, the National Wrestling Alliance. So they could have just done it as a one-off and walked away, but no, they realized that it has an audience. We have, you see it on our turnbuckle covers have those logos on them, and maybe that'll expand, and you might see a logo in the middle of the ring like you would if you were watching AAA or one of those other, and you sell that space. Because at the end of the day, it is a business. The more money we make, the better talent we can bring, the better stories we can tell. So that's what we have. That's the arc that we have. And even with AEW and Tony Khan out there, and he is just grabbing everybody that he possibly can, there's people he's not grabbing. And there's people that nobody really talked about. Jax Dane is an incredible example for that. There's maybe a person that's not very familiar with folks, a former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Tag Team Champion, North American Champion. The list goes on and on. There he is. He held the 10 pounds of gold. And he might hold it again because he has a shot at it against Trevor Murdoch whenever he chooses.
I was going to say, funny. You mentioned Mike Knox basically taking that shot from everybody else because of the attack in the cage. Latimer's still on Murdoch's heels. Mm-hmm. You've got Jax Dane, who was the champion before Tim Storm, and of course, Tim Storm was the champion when Billy officially took over and bought the brand. Right. So, I've noticed in the I'll call it the post Marquez era of the NWA Championship, because that's been, believe it or not, that's going to be 10 years next year, which I find just mind-boggling that it's been 10 years since that almost since that Australian shenanigans that went down. But actually, it wasn't Australia; it was the NWA's fault. But it wasn't. Yeah, but there's been a lot of great champions that have held that championship through this almost like a rough period between the time that Colt and Adam were in that cage and the time that Tim Storm picked up this 10-pound weight and ran with it on his shoulder like a freaking soldier. God bless him for being there. And then Nick, I can't say enough good things about Nick Aldis, even though he did block me for reasons unknown on Twitter. I still don't know why that happened, but he is a wonderful, wonderful representative. He and Mickey, they're two of my favorite people I've met, period. Not just in wrestling, period. They're wonderful people. I love everything about the brand. I did want to ask you two more questions before we sign off here. Number one, as a longtime wrestling fan, how much has it meant to you to be sitting at ringside wearing this logo, having this in front of you, calling the action as the NWA, as the oldest, most prestigious championship in the wrestling business is being defended right here in front of you, and you're the one telling the story? How much does that mean to you?
Honestly, it's still hard to kind of, even this many years me doing it, I'm for the Lightning One era of the National Wrestling Alliance, I'm Billy's second longest reigning employee. Tim Storm, of course, was first just because he was the champion, and then I came right after that. It is surreal to be a part of it. And then you think about, everyone talks about, the big NWA names, your Ric Flairs, Harley Race, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on. But it's only guys like you that also talk about Gordon Soley, and all those other people that were there to call the action and to be a part of that. And even guys like Tony Schiavone, who's still at it, who,
God bless Tony.
And I thought, when I called, I think it was NWA 70, and I was there with Jim Cornette and Tony Schiavone. It's like, well, this is the pinnacle of my career. I don't know how it can get better than this, but it persists and continues somehow.
It does. Yes.
And so, and then to see him still working, and that's the great thing about doing commentary, is it's a long game. You can only take so many bumps. Not everybody can have that 45-year career. Not everyone can be Chris Jericho.
That bump card gets smaller and smaller as you get older, unless you're Chris Jericho and divvy it up here quite a bit. Like
at some point, he's on Rampage doing commentary, and that's probably for a reason. At some point, he's figuring he needs an exit strategy,
long-term projection there.
Exactly. So it's fantastic. I think the reception has been really great, and I think that the most flattering thing for me is when I have conversations with people, that are older than you, Jeff, and people that, were like really ingrained in pro wrestling for decades, and they compliment me at the job that I do. Because I feel like that means a lot, because that means I'm pulling a lot from that history, and I'm delivering a product that they're proud to watch. And that means a lot to me. I'm, I was a younger guy. I'm getting older now. I'm doing the No Shave November. I'm seeing a lot of salt in this pepper. It's getting me worried.
I came back from that Jericho cruise. I couldn't find my razor to save my life. And I had to do that interview with Sarah Priebus, who's much more attractive than me. And I'm like, oh God, it took me forever. I finally found it, but I was noticing, the salt and pepper was real. I was like, oh geez. And then I got to be at Disneyland in 2 days. I'm not gonna take a picture of Mickey Mouse looking like a freaking old heathen. So,
but it's humbling when, like, so here's like a good example. You would think like in San Antonio, I'm on the news. Typically, I'm live at 11 a.m., I'm live at noon, I'm live at 5, and there's a story that I did, and they'll run the tape at 9.
Right.
So that's a lot of time to be on the air here. And you would think if I go to an HEB or a Walmart or a Home Depot, people be like, hey, you're that guy from the news. And I get that sometimes, but more often than not, I get the, hey, it's the NWA guy.
Right.
And so that really shows like how much people are watching our product. That, you know, local news is local news. It's still dominant. People still watch it, but I get recognized way more in random places, like, you know, at the Riverwalk, at these random places that, you know, it's not, I'm not at a wrestling show. I'm not at Mission Pro Wrestling or Dog Pound or any of these places where obviously people are in the know. So it's really cool. Here's a good example of it. I was at today. I covered Beto O'Rourke had his first campaign stop. He's running for governor of Texas.
Okay.
And one of the guys who was setting up the stage was, hey man, I saw you at Dog Pound or I saw you at RCW Wrestling. I watch NWA all the time. And he's wearing like a Shawn Michaels shirt. And he was one of the dudes setting up the stage. And I had a great conversation with him about wrestling.
That's great.
And it's those things that, like, you know, make me feel really blessed and make me feel like, hey, man, this is worth it. I'm on the right path. I love the company I'm with. They've treated me well. My life is great. I've got no complaints. So that's what I really love about it.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny you mentioned the crowd older than us. My dad grew up out here in LA. You know, he was born exactly 1 week after the alarm goes off because I'm live and that's what it does. He was born exactly 1 week after Whipper Billy Watson handed Lou Thez his first NWA championship loss.
Wow.
So he grew up when he was born into a world where Lou Thez wasn't the champion, which was very rare back in the 50s and 60s. But he grew up, you know, watching stuff out here at the Olympic, you know, just watching, having that progress into watching WWE when I became a fan. Even before I was born, he would watch the WWF on TV. And, you know, back, you know, in the Southern area, you mentioned all the legends, you know, cable TV, like you said, in the 80s was really big. You were either watching, if you were anywhere but the South, you were watching the WWF. And of course, in the Southeast, primarily, you're watching Georgia Championship Wrestling, the Crockett's, and then Turner picked it up and boom, you're nationwide. So it's been interesting to watch it evolve, especially since I became a fan, which was 31 years ago last month, and just seeing the evolution of the television product. And, you know, again, you know, it's, you mentioned, you know, getting recognized randomly. There wasn't a point, and you're familiar with the area. There wasn't a time back in 2009, early 2010, where I would take the train down to see my friends out in Long Beach. I'd go through Union Station, always stopped at least once, picture, autograph, something. It's like, I'm a YouTube guy. Why do they care? It was weird. Wrestling just connects people, and I love that about wrestling. And I also love that about Disney. And it is Disney Week here on the Jeff Meacham Network. And you said you're an LA boy. So I'll talk about Brian about getting you an understudy job if you can handle the workload. What does, being from Southern California, what does the Disney brand and what does Mickey Mouse, who turns 93 in 2 days, what do those two entities mean to you as a LA boy?
They mean a lot. And, you know, one of my closest friendships throughout my life has always been my cousin Rachel. And she is a huge Disney fan. To the fact that currently one of her jobs now is a travel agent booking people for Disney excursions in Southern California, Florida, etc. That's what she does that's how much she's ingrained in it. She's got a Mickey Mouse tattoo. I love Rachel.
I love that.
I can't wait to see her. So she lives up in Austin now, but she went back to California for Thanksgiving. But anyways, so she would always get the annual pass for Disneyland. And so then I had to get the annual pass for Disneyland. And this was back when it was semi-affordable. I have no idea how much it would be now. But this was like...
There's not even an annual pass anymore. They had this thing called Magic Key. They did away with the APs about two...
It's all way above my pay grade. I couldn't do it. This is... You have to keep in mind, this is before California Adventure was built. Like, I was getting passes before then, and then, you know, shortly thereafter that too.
Yeah, that's about it.
And so I have extremely fond memories on all of those rides that Walt came up with.
Yes.
The Jungle Cruise was always one of my favorites. Actually, that was one of my things as a teenager, and I would talk about it with Rachel. It's like, if I lived in the OC, like, this is what I would want to do as my job, is be the Jungle Cruise driver,
Skipper's just
ship
great,
captain, skipper,
skipper.
They're
tremendous.
So I never gone as far. And then that's the other thing too. When you work with Dave Marquez, he's Disney through and through, and so he has all kinds of stories working. In the back there. But I love it. And here's a little thing here. So Rachel wasn't just a Disney person; she was a theme park person, really.
Oh, okay.
And so we would also have annual passes for Universal Studios, which were a lot cheaper.
Yes.
That was our sort of like, let's go there to save some gas money sort of deal.
Right.
And now that it's a Disney intellectual property, I will mention this. I would really petition Disney to bring back Spider-Man the musical. There was a musical.
Wow, take it back, brother. Place. Look at that.
I don't know if you know this, Jeff, but there was a musical that ran I think for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was in that theater that is across from the Back to the Future, or which is now the Simpsons, Simpsons ride.
Yep.
I don't know what's in it now, but it was for a brief time Spider-Man the musical, and it was like a rock opera where they would, they had like I Need a Hero by Foo Fighters and stuff like that.
Right.
And that was we had to see Spider-Man the musical every time there. So I'd like to read that. My favorite part of that is at some point they had casted a person to play Spider-Man who was a guy who looked fantastic for the part, but was obviously from Germany. And his German accent was so thick. It was just like, you're supposed to be Peter Parker from New York, and he's, I'll save you, Mary Jane. It's like, what is going on? It was so bizarre, but he was the most fit, like, Spider-Man looking dude, but he had the worst accent. And I was like, so those
that needs to happen at Disneyland just because you said that. Yes. It has to be a thing at Disneyland.
I need more German Spider-Man.
Yes, that's right. We need more German Spider-Man. Absolutely. That's awesome. I actually think now across from the Simpsons right now, I think they turned it into Krusty Burger, which is so disappointing to think about that now.
So Krusty Burger used to be Doc Brown's Chicken Shack. And that's where we would always go for lunch. That chicken sandwich was the best deal.
Hell yes.
Because you got like this huge, like, Chick-fil-A style chicken sandwich, which I had no idea what Chick-fil-A was growing up in Southern California. You might know now,
me neither. Not a clue.
But like it's fantastic. But oh god! And then so it's the stage there, and then to the left was the Animal Planet stage, which I think is still an animal stage. But that's still there. It's round. It's a round stage. They must be doing something with it. Because that's
they have the Animal Actors stage still there. They may have moved it from where that was.
So it's right between those two rides, between Animal Actors and whatever. But at one point, it was the Spider-Man musical.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
and those are fantastic.
So,
but
I didn't go for a lot of years. When they closed, when they closed Back to the Future, I bounced. I was like, I'm good. You took out my ride. Piss off, whatever. I only went back 4 years ago because Dylan wanted to go, and he loves the Harry Potter movies. I'm like, okay, I love the books and the movies. All right, we'll take him. I had the greatest time. I even went on the Simpsons ride. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I enjoyed it enough where I could pass. But I enjoyed the whole park is so great. But Disney for us here in this house, we've gone every year. At least one of us has been down there during the holidays, which actually started last Friday. You can see the background here. Started last Friday since my parents started dating back in the 70s. So every year, at least one of us has been on property. So being there last year at downtown, not crossing through the turnstiles was weird.
Yeah, and that's true.
The last time I was there was when there was no such word as pandemic in our lexicon at the time in 2019. We knew about it. It was going on across overseas, but it wasn't a thing here yet. So to have to be, by the time I go in 2 days, it'll be 2 days shy of 2 full years that I've crossed through. So it's just, I'm emotional thinking about it, but I I think it's great that you have the Disney memories and your cousins in the company, with the company doing the booking and everything. I think that's wonderful.
So Jeff, before we get off this topic, I have to ask you, in your opinion, the most underrated Disney movie, what do you think it is?
Underrated Disney movie?
The most underrated Disney movie.
Even as recently as 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said this, but moving in with my buddy JJ, who does our show Dads and Wrestling, does Always Wrestling with me every other week. Meet the Robinsons gets no.
That's good. No, that's a good call. That's a good call. My pick is always going to be Emperor's New Groove.
I still haven't seen that all these years later.
Oh my God, Jeff! What are you talking about?
He's done.
Oh my God, I'm livid.
He's left the interview. It's over. I know. I had Disney Plus. There's no excuse. Zero excuse.
It is absolutely. David Spade is a tour de force in this as the llama. Oh my God, Jeff!
All right. I'll tell you what.
That's my assignment for you. You watch The Emperor's New Groove, and then you tweet me your thoughts about it. It better be just a bunch of laughing, crying emojis.
I promise. I will turn this off. We will sign up for the night. I will watch Emperor's New Groove tonight. You have my word, sir.
It'll be the most enjoyable hour and a half of your life. Okay. Everything still works. All the jokes still work. They're all very funny. Patrick Warburton is a tour de force. My God, is Kronk.
I love Warburton. I've never been a big David Spade guy, so it was always like, but for me. So
Warburton is just so good.
Warburton's great.
That was so going back. The one thing about working in Palm Springs as a reporter is you do get to meet celebrities as though you're an LA reporter because they come out there. And Patrick Warburton had a golf charity event that he partnered with our station with. So I got to meet him, and there aren't a lot of opportunities where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm meeting this person. It's like Patrick Warburton and the one time I interviewed Steven Spielberg. Like those two things up there. Well, because I'm also a big Venture Brothers fan too. So I was him being Brock Sampson and stuff like that. And I made him do the Go Team Venture thing. It's super embarrassing now that I'm saying it. I'm like, oh my God, you're Kronk. And he's like, yeah, I'm Kronk. And it's like, oh my God. So
he is so chill about it. He's like, yeah, that's me. It's funny. You hear the voice on Family Guy and stuff. People don't really pay attention because they've changed the cue since then. But he was in the original Soarin' over California. He was the guy flight deck taking us off.
He was the pilot. He was the pilot. Oh my God.
He's so low key and he's not overly trying to be hysterical, but he gets the jabbing on the dad for him, the Mickey hat. It's just it's the little things. He's great at the little things. He always has been.
Do they have to change Soarin' over California now? So the scenes where it's flying over Venice Beach, there's a lot of tents that are under overpasses. Right.
It's actually
do we have to kind of adjust it? Let's be real here. This is what California looks like there.
I'm not sure if they did it because they did it before the pandemic for sure, but it's now soaring around the world on both. It's soaring around the world here, so you get different world viewpoints. I'm not sure about back at Disney World. I have to check with my expert in the next room and find out where they're doing that. But I'm pretty sure the actual California version is still at Walt Disney World because back there they just called it soaring.
As long as they're spraying the smells at you, the orange smell was always really
trees.
Good.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They got to spray and then the pine smell when you were going over San Fran. Yeah, that was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I loved that you always ended at Disneyland Park during the holidays, whether you were in December or June.
Oh, because that's when it looks the best. They're not stupid. They're like, oh yeah, this is where we got all our lights up. It's where it looks.
It's funny as a kid and as a parent. It's a small world. The actual music and the ride. Oh my God! Just put a bullet in me. I'm done. But it's so beautiful. It's so wonderful to see every holiday.
From the outside, it's great. They go all out.
From the outside, it's like I'm scared. I don't want to be here.
Yeah, it's lots
of little people everywhere.
It's rough. It's rough. I'm actually surprised it survived this long.
I mean,
but I guess it's iconic. You can't get rid of it.
It's one of those things. And then this is me, assuming. When you assume in this world, I'm thinking it's because it was such a huge smash hit for Walt at the New York World's Fair, and such a big hit when it was delivered here into Florida that they go, that one's untouchable. You can tweak it.
Be.
You can add characters to it, but do not take this down.
Yeah,
so,
that'd be my guess. I could see that.
That'd be my guess.
It has a good message.
It's beautiful. It really is. It's and you know
Be nice
what?
to each other.
Yeah, and in the last, almost 2 full years now, the world just got smaller and smaller. So it's going to be interesting to see how people react to it, how they line it up now that the parks are back open and I get to go. So I'm looking forward to it. Joe, again, thank you very much for your time.
Eat a turkey leg for me too. Eat a turkey.
The turkey legs, I'm not going to lie, I got put off by that only because we bought one and the person in our party didn't finish it. So we actually brought it back. Didn't realize we had brought it back. We found it when we moved out and it wasn't in the refrigerator and it was still like McDonald's status. It looked exactly the same. It's like, that can't be healthy.
Okay. All right. So wait, well, before we go, I got to know where do you eat? Where are your go-to food spots?
Ever since they started using the chicken fusilli pasta, what's now called Pizza Planet, the old pizza port in Tomorrowland.
Okay. See, I would always do French Quarter. I was always a French Quarter getting the bread
was
bowl.
good.
I like that. Or the Country Bear restaurant. What was that called?
Hungry Bear.
Hungry Bear. Yes, that would also.
Hungry Bear's still there. The French Quarter one, it's a little bit not out of my price range, but it's kind of out of my.
It's highfalutin. It's high. That's usually the Country Bear one was what we would do, but if we had a little extra cash, it's like let's treat ourselves to a sourdough bread bowl. But that's also back when annual passes were less than $200.
Well, see, the bread bowl soup I had actually at the Cafe Orleans on the other side of that building, right there by Pirates. Yeah. That's where I had my bread bowl was Cafe Orleans. Those were all.
Yeah, I think we're talking about the same place. Yeah.
So it's funny. The only time I ever got anything at French Quarter it wasn't the last time I was there. So it may have been the time before when with my friend Jess in a summertime visit. I actually had a mint julep for the first time, which I thought was an extraordinary drink. I didn't realize these existed. They were so good. But if we don't go to Hungry Bear or we don't go to Pizza Planet, the one place I did like, at least at the time, I hear the menus changed. When I took my son to see Fantasmic after the big, like, massive overhaul I did of that show after almost 25 years, whatever it was, we ate the Riverbell Terrace right there on the river.
Yeah,
I enjoyed my food, but I had forgotten that you have to buy the kid food too as part of the package. So I ended up having to buy 2 meals. I'm like, I can't do this place anymore. It's too expensive. And I'm always going to burst. But yeah, definitely Pizza Planet. Oh, we lost Joe. I'll go ahead and talk while he's coming back here. Definitely Pizza Planet. Definitely Hungry Bear. I like the Plaza Inn when we do character breakfast. They don't do that right now, as far as I understand, because of what's going on in this crazy, crazy world. But I
don't know what happened. I think my phone got all excited. It's like, are we going to LA or not?
Yeah, right. I was just saying that I enjoy the Hungry Bear. I enjoy the Pizza Planet. I also really love the Plaza Inn, mainly for character breakfast. That's the reason to go there, because character breakfast is always great. But yeah, right now it's Pizza Planet. But my son was like, "We're going to Pizza Planet, right?" I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
So we'll go there.
You can eat a Dole Whip. Like a Dole Whip is just decadent.
Fun.
It's simple but delicious.
So here's your moment. You had New Groove. You mad about this last 3 summers ago. So I was 35 already. My first ever Dole Whip.
Wow.
I never had one before.
A long time.
I was like,
there's just you get into a lane. When you go to Disneyland, you find something you like, and you kind of fall into this lane of things that you like to do. And so sometimes it's hard to venture out of that. So I don't blame you. Do you blame him, Ted? What do you think, Ted? Is it fine? All right, Ted's cool.
It's so funny. We did Tiki Room every time we went, but never stopped and just had the Dole Whip. Just it wasn't a thing in our head. But now I can't go with that one. I go crazy.
Oh,
so
man. Delish.
But I do thank you again. And
Ted's come on, Ted. Get out of here.
Yeah, Ted just bogarting the camera now at this point. I will throw it up there one more time. Thank you very much for coming on. I know it's been a labor to get the two of us on camera together, so I appreciate taking your time. We will see Joe every Tuesday night, 6:05. That wonderful NWA 6:05 time slot on Tuesday nights on FITE TV. Man. You can catch Power Surge, Empower, all of it. You see the shirt right there, Empower. I gotta love it there. I'm watching NWA every week. I subscribe, boisterously. I love it. Thank you, sir. We will see you guys tomorrow right here on the Jeff Meacham Network for see, tomorrow's Wednesday, the Greg Cherry Show at 7:00 Eastern. We'll be going over the bonkers NFL week, which if you have a sportscaster in your desk, I'm sure he was busy last night trying to make sense of all it.
Where's my phone? I need to do I'm doozing it. I gotta use my fantasy team. Oh my God, I'm lost again.
This week 10 was the shits. It was just so bad. Oh my God. It was crazy.
I never win, I just never win.
If you want fantasy, then you're good to go, brother. But thank you again, Joe. I really appreciate it. We will see you guys tomorrow on the Greg Cherry Show. And then Thursday, we're at the Magic Kingdom at last. So thank you guys very much. We'll see you next time right here on the Jeff Meacham Network.
Love you.